Okay, I'm just gonna come forward and say it. I'm starting to feel a little hesitant with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because this is the second time that they decide to put a 3 week break in between episodes. And I think that this is destroying the momentum that the show had, regardless of how I feel about this episode that I'm about to review or the previous ones. Because ABC, just stop putting these 3 week breaks in between episodes. You probably are trying to play catch up because you didn't know that you were going to get greenlit for an entire season of S.H.I.E.L.D. But man, you need to have a backup plan because if you go this long without showing new episodes, you will lose your audience, including me. Now, with that being said, let's get on with the review. Hello everyone, David here, and I'm back once again after yet again another 3 week hiatus to review the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. entitled T.R.A.C.K.S. And standard protocol dictates that there's going to be spoilers in this video, so if you have not seen the new episode of S.H.I.E.L.D., don't watch this video, go and watch it and then come back. But I will say that if you're going to come back after a 3 week hiatus, you better do it with a bang, which I felt like this episode did because this is actually my favorite episode of the entire season. I actually loved this episode, and it did so many things differently. And one of those things that I really enjoyed was the non-linear narrative. Going back and forth, flashbacking, and then going forward. I loved it. I love it when they do it in movies and when they manage to do it in a smooth manner. It wasn't the smoothest way to do it because there's some things in the writing that were a little iffy, that were quick fixes or conveniences that for the sake of this being a Marvel television show, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. But aside from that, I really loved the editing in this episode, having the story jump from one point in time to another, and like I said, being non-linear. That I loved it. I loved it. It made me intrigued, like, oh, so now we're gonna see what happened here. I loved it. I'm a sucker for movies and television shows that do that, which is one of the reasons why I really want to watch 24 and get into 24, because each episode is 1 hour in real time of the day that Jack Bauer's going through. I'm sorry, I've never seen 24, but I would really love to watch it, to give it a chance. But for the time being, I'm just a sucker for these kinds of methods when it comes to telling a story within, like I said, a television show or a movie. So I loved it that they went ahead and incorporated this form of telling the story in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I was like, wow, this is something. This was something completely unprecedented. So when I saw it, I was like, this is cool. Now, the episode starts off a little, I want to say a little cold. It felt like when you go work out, but you didn't do the warm-up, so you instantly start lifting weights. Hopefully, some of you guys know what I'm talking about. I work out from time to time. But sometimes I do that. Sometimes I don't do a warm-up, I don't do cardio or anything, so I just start lifting right away. And the beginning of this episode kind of felt like that, where we're thrown right into the mix. I mean, the very first scene of the episode is everybody gathering around the little cybertronic table or whatever and briefing each other on intel and all that. And I found it quite familiar to me, considering that I had just recently played Splinter Cell Blacklist on the PlayStation 3. So having them all talk about intel and operations and all that, I was like, look, it's all this mumble jumble all over again. And that was further amplified by the inclusion of an actor named Carlo Rota, who's this character actor from movies and television. And the reason for that being is that this actor who appears in this episode, and he also had a brief appearance in Breaking Bad, is in Splinter Cell Blacklist. I heard his voice and I'm like, I think that's that actor. And then they show him and they actually went ahead and modeled his character in that game after his actual appearance. I was like, it's him again. Look at that. And I like seeing that actor. He's actually one of my favorite character actors. He's not a breathtaking actor that steals every single scene, but he just has that look and that sound to his voice that resonates with me very well. And I'm like, hey, it's that guy. And I'm happy to say that we've gotten to a point in the season where it's enjoyable to see these characters interact when they're on a mission, when they have to help each other out to accomplish the mission. And seeing them work together here is cool. And like I said, implementing that non-linear narrative made it just more awesome to see. And one of the things that this mission did was to go ahead and develop the little thing that's happening between May and Ward, because at first they're saying it's just professional, it's just sex, nothing's gonna happen, and none of this is gonna compromise any missions that we're gonna have. And of course, us as viewers know that that's bullcrap. That's come on. Feelings are gonna get tossed around, and we started to see that a little bit in this episode. Now, I did feel it a little weird. Now, having Ward and May be a thing in this grand picture, it's a little weird to go ahead and maybe imply a little something between May and Coulson when Coulson's healing her, which I thought was really weird because the way that that guy stabbed her doesn't really match her wound. It didn't make sense. Like the wound did not correspond to the actual puncture. It didn't make sense to me. But anyways, that little scene, even though it further developed Ward's potential feelings for May, I found it a little weird that they had to do it with Coulson. I'm like, okay, that we kind of started getting hints at a possible Coulson-May hookup at the beginning of the season, like at the very, very beginning, like the first 2 episodes or so, when they had this little banter back and forth. To see it now with Ward in the picture, it's a little weird. It's a little, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. I kind of wish that they would have done it with Fitz. I mean, I would have taken Fitz, but have Coulson do it? This feels weird. And speaking of the ladies, wow, this episode did a number on May and Simmons, alright? May in that outfit and Simmons in those glasses. And what I also dug is that they decided to not waste any time with Michael Peterson. He comes back, he has a formidable role in the movie, a much bigger role than Stan friggin' Lee. Stan Lee is in this episode. And when I heard that he was going to be in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't know, maybe it was just my inner geek blossoming, but for some strange and potentially stupid reason, I thought that he was going to have a bigger part in the episode. But no, it's just a cameo, like he's always done. The guy is, after all, 90 years old, so how is he going to act in a full-on supporting role, at the very least, in a television episode? So I guess I shouldn't be that surprised that all he had was a cameo. I just wish it would have been a better cameo, because what we get here is a cameo that could have been fitted for somebody else other than Stan Lee. Have Stan Lee do something that involves action in the Marvel Universe. I mean, in other movies, I've seen him interact with at least the main character or something. And here, he kind of does that, but it's like, hey, look, it's Stan Lee. Hey, look at I don't know. Maybe he just feels better in a movie rather than a TV show. Because a TV show, you kind of expect them to be... You kind of expect the writers, since they're writing a TV show and not a movie, and they're not handling a budget that's as big as a movie, you expect them to go ahead and use Stan Lee very effectively. At least to have him appear twice, not just once. In fact, I was somewhat getting my hopes up to maybe see him just one more time at the very end. After all, he was still on the train. So I would have loved him to see... I would have loved to have seen him a second time. But no, he just gets one brief little cameo. Slightly disappointed in that. But I am very pleased by the fact that Michael Peterson had a larger role at the very end of this episode. I was about to say movie. At the end of this episode. And wow, he became like part Iron Man, hearing his leg, and the revelation of that being Operation Death... I don't want to say Deathstroke, but Death... I can't remember. It was Death something, but I'm intrigued what that means. It's probably something from the comics. I have no idea. Please let me know if you do. But I'm definitely interested in the direction that they're going to take Michael Peterson, because, wow, he's becoming such an important part of the universe of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that he's no longer that first case of the pilot episode to kick things off. No, now he's actually a vital piece of the story. So I definitely want to see what they do with him. But leave it to Joss Whedon to walk in and say, I have an idea. Because there's no way that you can convince me that it wasn't Joss Whedon's idea to shoot Skye at point blank range by Quinn and have her like gushing out blood. When I saw that, I literally gasped. Okay? And I like Skye at this point. I know some people don't, but I personally like Skye. I don't love her. I don't like her as much as the other characters, but I still liked her. And when that happened, I was like, are we really gonna lose Sky here? I was genuinely scared for a second. And for all we know, she might not be the same. She might go through the similar thing that Coulson does. After all, we got the revelation of Sky being an 084 in the last episode, so maybe we'll finally see what her power is after being shot, presumably to death. I mean, if it wasn't for that convenient capsule, which, like I said, it's one of the iffy things about the writing in this episode, but they're literally just a few, and they're very spread out through the episode, that I could almost forgive them. But honestly, that scene of having Sky nearly die was somewhat impactful. And adding that to the non-linear narrative, as well as the characters really developing some really good chemistry with one another to really get the mission accomplished, and to just have so many things that I really enjoyed about this episode, I'm going to go ahead and give it my highest score, at least the highest score that I've given a S.H.I.E.L.D. episode up until this point, and that is a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect. It is, after all, still S.H.I.E.L.D., and it still has its little conveniences where you need to suspend your disbelief a little bit, because it is a Marvel show and it is a TV show nonetheless. But I still think that this episode packed the biggest emotional punch for me out of all the episodes of this season so far. Plus, it's giving me faith that the writers know what kind of angle to take with their humor, because the scene where Coulson and Ward are trying to figure out how to work the table had me laughing. I loved it. And the thing that mostly helped was the performance by Clark Gregg and I can't remember his name, but the actor who plays Ward. Their performances in that scene were so great that they had me laughing, because they were so dumb to how they were able to work that thing that they just had me laughing. And I really hope that the writers take that little scene and manage to keep the momentum going when it comes to the type of humor that the show needs to go for, because that's the type of humor that the show would be appropriate for. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to let me know what you guys thought of this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. entitled T.R.A.C.K.S, and I'll see you guys next time in my review of the next episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more reviews, and as always, take care. I'll see you later.